Okay, we are recording.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Hamirpur Tales Hour. And we are very fortunate to have with us Jack Mormon. And Jack will be relaying his experiences of touring with Erwin Luck, also accompanied by Laurel McGreeny, when a extensive video was made, and this was, I believe, in 1977. So without further ado, welcome Jack Mormon, J Baba.
Hey, Baba. So I'll give you a little background first. I
Great.
went to India in 1977 for 3 months. I was between wives and between lives and between jobs. And I had been working at Holy Foods, and it was like time for a break. And I had quit my job at Holy Foods. And when I got back from this trip, I went back to school and got an advanced degree, which is neither here nor there. It just is. Uh, so I didn't have a whole lot of money, but I was there for 3 months. And one day somebody came up to me, and I don't really recall who it is. And they said, "Oh, it was three people were supposed to do a film trip with Irwin. And the film trip, they were going to go from Ahmednagar to Mahabaleshwar, back to Ahmednagar, and then all up through central India, and then to Hamirpur. And then after Hamirpur, we went up all the way up to Shimla. And what the job was, if any of you, and you probably all do know, Irwin filmed people all over the world. He was just wonderfully. He got all these stories of all these old Baba lovers and all their experiences with Baba. And he had Laurel Wenger at the time. She hadn't married Glenn yet. By the way, Glenn was my roommate when I was asked to do this. So it was like there's this amazing connection with Glenn and Laurel, and it was really good. And I had had a lot to do with Irwin and Ed back in the early 70s. Ed lived with me. I drove cross country with him. I had a lot to do with the Luck brothers back in the 70s. So they were comfortable. But this lady comes up to me and she said, I understand you're going to be here for a few months. And I said, yeah. And she said, listen, Irwin is doing a film trip, and I promised that I would go with him. There's some costs involved in it. And if you would like to go, I can't go because I'm not feeling well. And I said, well, I really don't have, because it did cost some money to finance it, and I didn't have any money. And she says, not a problem. I've already outlaid this money for it, and I just can't go because of health reasons. So would you like to go? It'll take you about a month. And I thought, yeah, I thought about it for a millisecond and said, yeah, I'm ready to go, because I knew it would be a great experience. I knew Laurel and I knew Irwin, as I said, and we had a very interesting time. Do you want to hear about more of the trip before and after Hamirpur, or do you just want to hear about Hamirpur?
You can fill us in on more than just Hamirpur if you like.
Okay,
Certainly.
so I'll just gloss over it. We went to we filmed. I remember we filmed Padre. Irwin, by the way, has all these tapes. Some of the vast amount of tapes that he has, he's edited. Some, I believe, he hasn't, and I don't know if he's ever edited these. We had major we had two cameras, and one of them was always malfunctioning. It was just so Baba. It was always malfunctioning. No matter what we did, we'd fix one and the other one would work, and then the other one wouldn't work, and then it just went back and forth. So we went to Mahabaleshwar, and we filmed. Who remembers the name of the guy? It was. It's where Bob is standing out on a balcony like this in Mahabaleshwar, and there was a hotel up there. Anybody remember the name of the guy who owned the motel? Ron, you probably went there. You're on mute, Ron.
Yeah, the Ripon Hotel is what.
Ripon Hotel, yeah.
Yeah, and was his name Satarawala?
The Tarawala, yeah, that was his name.
Okay.
Even though He wasn't in Satara. All
Yeah.
right. So we went there and we filmed him, and we came back and I think we filmed Meru and we filmed Padre, and then we set off and we headed up. There was three of us, as I said. We had a driver and a van. It was the same driver the whole time, and except for a brief period of time when he kept falling asleep in the wheel. At the wheel, I had to drive for a while, which was absolutely terrifying. But it really was terrifying. So we headed up and we went to places like Nagpur and Jabalpur, and we met up with a fellow named Mr. Lokande. And there's a poster. It's probably Baba's probably in his mid 60s, and the poster is like this, where Baba's like this, and it says it says "Don't worry, be happy" under it, and it was produced as a big poster. Well, this fellow, Mr. Lokande, he's the one who took the photo and had all the posters made up. And it was really interesting because I walked in there and he had one signed, MS Irani, and I said, Mr. Lakande, how did you get this poster? And he said, Baba signed it for me because I'm the one that put it. I did the photo, made a poster, presented it to him. He signed it and gave it back to me. And he said, please produce these all over the world if you can, because Baba liked it. So if there's time, I'll come back and tell you an incredible Lokande story about January 31st and January 31st and February 1st, right when 1969, when Baba died. It's a Lokande story, and it was filmed. It's one of the most. It's just an incredible story. If there's time, we can go into it. But one of the fun things that happened was we met up with Dr. Deshmukh, and Dr. Deshmukh, as you may or may not know, was a professor. Was he a philosophy professor, I believe, and he got his degree in London. And he had students that would come in, and they would come in to see him, and we were there. It wasn't filmed, and they would bow down to him. And I thought, wow, that's really strange, because I knew that Baba had said that you shouldn't let people bow down to you because you then receive their karma. And I later, when I got back to Merzad, I asked Urich about it, and Urich kind of laughed, and he said, well, that's just something that students in India do to their professors and their teachers. It's just a sign of respect. So anyway, so we were there one night, and we were staying at Lokande's house, and he said, would you like to go to Tajuddin's tomb? That's Jabalpur, Nagpur. It's Nagpur, sorry. It was Nagpur. And would you like to go to Tajuddin Baba's tomb? And my thought was, well, I know I was hesitant. And Deshmukh said, well, Baba said we could go to the tombs of his masters. That was not a problem. So I remember we went there. We went to the door, and Laurel was not allowed inside the tomb because it's a Muslim tomb and no women are allowed. So there was a young woman sitting outside with long hair. I don't even want to do what she was doing, but she was tossing her head around like this with her hair swaying in the background. We were there probably for an hour, and that's what she did for an hour. So I don't know if she was a Mastani or that was her way of worshiping Tajuddin, but it was very interesting. What happened to me, Irwin and I went in, and Irwin bowed down, and I bowed down to Tajuddin, and all of a sudden my mind went blank, and I couldn't remember who I was bowing down to. Who is this guy? I know he's one of Baba's perfect masters, and why am I doing this? And the thought went through my head, thank you, Baba. Thank you, Mera Baba. And that was the last time I ever just bowed down to anybody's tomb except Mera Baba's. So it was a bit of a lesson for me. And it was okay to bow down to Tajuddin's tomb. I just wasn't something I really was that interested in. So we had this van, and the Mela's in October, isn't it? Isn't that when they have the Mela?
November.
November?
November.
November. Alan, you've been there. Ron, have you been to Hamirpur? Shake your head. Yes or no? No. Have you been to Hamirpur?
Yes, I have.
Yes,
Sorry about
yes.
that.
Betty,
I
have
was
you been to
leaving.
Hamirpur? No. Richard, have you been there?
Yeah.
So only one of us hasn't. Okay, so it's a pretty, as you well imagine, it's a pretty incredible place. To get there, we had to cross a river, and to cross this river, there were no bridges. We had to load the van onto a barge. So the driver told us all to get out, and he loaded the van. He drove up a ramp fast enough to get up the ramp and over the hump, but not fast enough to go over the other side of the boat because there wasn't much room. There was probably 2 feet on each side. Once if the boat's this long, he had to go sideways on it to get onto the boat. So there was only a few feet on each side to to accommodate the van. But I remember going across the river, and there's other people on the barge because it was a public barge. And we went, Laurel and I went and sat on top of the van. You had a really great view of the river. I think it only took about 15 minutes or something, but they didn't have a ferry. Well, I'm sorry, that was the ferry, but they didn't have a bridge, so we had to go there. And then I remember we went down a lot of dirt roads, and we had been traveling all day, and we finally got to Hamirpur, the major city, probably about 8 at night. So one of the things I wanted to say on the entire trip for 1 month, Laurel, Irwin and I slept in the same bed every night, and Laurel slept in the same room with us, never in the same bed, but they always brought a cot in for her or a sofa. And, the only time we were apart, the three of us, in those 3 months, is was one of us took a shower, went to the toilet. I mean, it was really close companionship. It was really lovely. Uh, so we get to the affair. Oh, Pukar's daughter. While we were there, while they were celebrating the anniversary, it was also Pukar's daughter's wedding. So we, of course, and there were other people there. I remember Heather was there. I can't remember who else was there at that time. I just remember Heather. We were working. I mean, that was the thing. It was not a tourist trip. We were there working, filming, and we did all day. One of us ran the sound, one of us ran a camera, or we ran two cameras at the same time when they were working, but mostly we were fixing the cameras. And we got there late, about 8 o'clock at night, and they fed us about 10. And about 11 o'clock, we were trying to get some sleep. And there's a PA system right outside our window. And you've all been to India, and you know how loud Indians like to play their music, especially for big events. And the music, at about 1 o'clock, the music was just, it was people speaking, and the music was going, and it was so loud. And Irwin slept through it. Uh, but Laurel and I are looking at each other, and I go, Laurel, we got to do something about this. I can't stand it. So we looked around in the toolkit, and we found a wire cutter. Right. We were desperate. I was desperate. Laurel agreed to it. By the way, I invited her tonight, but I don't know where she is. She might be in India. And so we walked down the stairs, and we're like looking around, where's the wire? Where can we cut it? And of course, Pukar comes up, and he said, "What are you doing up? Why, is there a problem?" And we went, "Oh, Pukar, that music is just so loud. We can't sleep. None of us can sleep except Irwin, of course." And he looks at us with this incredulous look, and he said, "You mean that bothers you? Is that bothering you? That loud? They don't hear it, I guess." And we go, "Yes, it's really bothering." He said, "Okay, I'll turn it off." So he turned it off. It was like the whole situation was saved because he just we never thought about asking him. But his daughter was getting married, and we went into a room to see all the gifts that she was given, and she had, like water pots and things for the kitchen and everything like that. So the next day we went to what's it called, Maristana. And I believe Maristana is where Baba declared in, let me, if I get this wrong, 1953. It's the place, or 54, where he publicly declared he was the Avatar. It was the first place he publicly declared he was the Avatar. And we went there and we're filming his brother, whose name I don't. Does anybody recall his brother's name?
Mukund.
Spell it.
Probably Mukhad or something like that.
Mukund, 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 Mukund Lal, Lal. And he was Keshav Nigam's brother.
It was Keshev's brother. Keshev's brother. That's right. Not Pukar's.
Yes, not Pukar's. It was
Brother,
Keshev's.
right. I knew
brother.
that. Actually, I wrote it down that it was Keshev's brother, but
Of course.
you people are making me so nervous that I just got it wrong. And he brought out the it has a name. It's the bed that they can weave it and you lay in it. It has a certain name. I remember Ursula got one made and she brought it back to America. Anyway, it's a woven bed, and he gets the bed out that Baba sat on, that he slept on at Maristana, and when he declared himself the Avatar, this bed was right there. And this was really probably the most magical moment of the whole trip for me. He's telling us the story, so I couldn't really listen to the story because I had to concentrate on filming him and making sure the camera was working. And Laurel was handling the audio, so she could hear him. But when you're working, you're working. And I don't remember what he said. I just remember the feeling around him. And I felt I, it was more than I felt more than Baba's presence. I just felt that it was a magical moment. One of the magical moments of my life. I can't even remember the man's name, but it was just magical to hear him tell this story. He had a very low voice, and we had to concentrate on the audio so that people could hear his recording. And his English wasn't very good, and he had a very heavy accent, Indian accent, which was a little difficult to understand. So I'd be interested to know. I'd love to hear this. I'd love to see the films of what was filmed. Um, so what else about Hamirpur? Anybody tweak my memory with something?
Did did
Uh,
did you stay over at Mehewa village there at Maristana? Did you stay
We
over there?
stayed there. No, we went back to the main city because he had a room for us because there were three of us. It wasn't just one of us, and they had to accommodate two men and a woman. And Erwin made sure that all the equipment was brought into the room every night, so we couldn't. We went back to Maristana. Not Maristana. We went back to Hamirpur. So
Did you film anybody else there besides Mukund Lal?
we filmed Keshev. I don't remember anything about filming him, but we filmed him. Um,
do you remember
we
anything
fil-
about your experience of being around Keshev or with Keshev? Understandably, you were focused on the camera work,
yeah,
but
I remember
you have
Baba said to him that Baba, would break am I getting this right? That he would break his silence before Keshev died. Does that sound familiar to anyone? I think Keshev told us that he put that on film, and as we know, he had Parkinson's disease, so his left hand was always going up into the air. And I remember when I got back to Mehrabad, he had given uh, a peacock feather to Heather to give to me, which I still have somewhere. I couldn't find it right now, but that was kind of a fun thing too. So I don't have a whole, again, I wasn't there to, although you're always there to experience Baba, I wasn't there to take in the whole scene. We were working. And believe me, Irwin was a hard taskmaster. Richard, you're on mute. Richard, you're on mute. Richard,
Uh-oh.
you're on mute.
I wonder why he doesn't hear.
He's trying,
Richard.
I think he's trying to unmute there.
Mute. You're on mute. Take yourself off mute.
He's trying. Sometimes it's difficult.
Yeah, it's difficult.
Can you hear me
There
now?
you go.
Okay,
Yeah, I
I'm
can hear
sorry.
you.
I'll start over very quickly. We
Good.
were all a lot younger then and had much less perspective, but 50 or so years later, do you remember your own thoughts or perhaps Irwin's thoughts about what what was the value of the filming that you were doing for the future and for humanity?
Good question. Just let me say, and you probably all know this, that Baba said, if you want to see my head, go down south. But if you want to see my heart, you go to Hamirpur. And I just remember the love that just spewed from these people. It was just, had I not had to be focused on filming, it would have been almost overwhelming, Richard. Looking back on it, I feel like I was very fortunate to be in a place of pure love. And I felt that way at the time. It was just the love and devotion. And as the years went by, I went to a number of Amartithis, and the Hamir people would come almost I think they do come every year. And I'd always try, I've probably been to about 4 or 5 Amartithis, and I always try to find out where they are. I don't want to talk to them. I just want to hang out with them, because they just exude love for Baba that, I mean, I've seen it in other places, obviously at the tomb, but there's just something special about Hamirpur. It's not easy to get to. I know it was easy for us. We drove. For most people, what do they have to do? They have to take the train, and then they take a bus, and then they have to take a bullock cart or something.
You got it.
You gotta really want to go to Hamirpur. I mean, it's not a place that you just drop in on. You have to make plans. Pukar's daughter's wedding was nice. We didn't film it, but we were there for that. That's why the loudspeaker was going on. Oh, by the way, at 6 a.m, the loudspeaker went back on. They felt, 3 or 4 hours sleep's enough for anybody. Pukar couldn't understand why we couldn't sleep. It was really crazy. We went up to New Delhi and we filmed people there, and then we went up, and I'll get back to the filming in a minute, Richard, because that was a good question that you asked. We went up to Shimla and we filmed Ilcha Mystery. Did you meet who met Ilcha? Ron, did you meet Ilcha Mystery?
No.
He used to come down. So I'll tell you a great story that he told us, if you want. Ilcha was living, I'm not sure where he was from, but he was from Maharashtra somewhere else. So let's say he was from Pune, and he was a Baba lover. Ilcha Mysteries, part of the mystery group. And he was offered a job in Simla selling potato buds or potato seeds. And they had all different levels of potato seeds, from A, or the best, B, or okay, A minus, B plus, B minus, or B minus, in that way. They rated them. And Ilcha, of course, wanting to be totally honest, was told in his job that what he was supposed to do was, when the potato farmers, came to buy the seeds, if they wanted to buy the B pluses, he sold them he sold them to them, but only gave him the B's or the B minuses, but charged them for the B pluses. So he asked Baba, should I take this job, Baba, because I have to be dishonest? I have to lie to these people. And Ilcha said, Baba asked him two questions. And the two questions were, would you lose your job if you didn't do this? Cheat these people. And Ilcha said, yes, they would not even give me the job in the first place. And if I said I was going to do it and I didn't do it, they would fire me. And then Baba asked him, he said, do you make any more money by selling them A's but giving them B's? And Ilcha said, no, it's just part of the job. I get a salary and I get a commission, but it doesn't, I get a commission on selling potato seeds, not which potato seeds. And Baba asked him again, so you don't make any underhanded or black money? And Ilcha said, no. So Baba said, take the job. So I always thought that was a good story about how Baba saw honesty, because it's not honest. But Ilcha didn't make any money from it. And Ilcha was one of Baba's comics. He always made Baba laugh. And we went to his house, which was high up in the hills in Simla. And has anybody been to Simla? It's at the base of the Himalayas, and it's where the British used to go in the summers from New Delhi and from Mumbai. They would go up to Simla because it's at about 7,000 or 8,000 feet. And the only places I had ever really been in India were Ahmednagar and Pune and Bombay. And when I got up there, I remember saying to Laura, can't look how clean this place is. There's no dirt. There were signs: spitting, 50 rupees fine; littering, 50 rupees fine. And that's when a rupee was worth a lot more than it is today. It was like 7.5 rupees to $1. So 50 rupees was a good amount of money. And there were no cars there were no cars there because the hills were too steep. So all our camera equipment to go to Ilcha's had to be taken by porters. We couldn't even carry it up these steep inclines to get to Ilcha's house, but there were no cars allowed, because it's not that they were illegal. You couldn't get up the streets. But Richard, to get back to your question, Irwin did a great thing by going around the world and filming people, because he went everywhere. He did it in America. He went to Australia. He went to Iran. I think he went to Europe and filmed people. He captured these people, many of them telling their Baba stories for the very first time. And I remember seeing like tears when these people were talking, these lovers of God were talking about God, who they were meeting for the first time. But let me tell you the story about Lukandi. That's the guy who did the poster where Baba's like that. So we're at Lukandi's house, and Deshmukh is there. And Deshmukh was, as I said, he was a philosophy professor, and he was very specific, and he liked to correct people. So Lukandi was saying that what happened to him was, Lukandi had heard that Baba had died. He got a message either the 31st or the 1st of February. And it was either the first night or the second night. He said he got up from a deep sleep. His wife was in bed, his children, because they all sleep in the same rooms. His children were there. And he gets up and he had to go and use the toilet. And when he comes back, Baba's sitting at the bottom sitting on his bed. And he shook himself and he said, this isn't a dream. Baba's here. And Lukandi says to him, Baba, why are you here? And Baba said, Lukandi said that he could hear Baba. I don't really know what that means, whether he heard him here or here. He didn't really explain it, but he said he could hear Baba's voice. And Baba said, I've come for you. And Lukandi said, but Baba, you've just died. You've just dropped your body. How can you be here? And Baba said, I'm omnipresent. I'm everywhere. But I chose to be with you tonight. And he said, can I wake my wife and my children so they can see you? And Baba said, no, I've just come for you. And then he said, I don't know if I can do this without crying. He said, Baba took his hand. He was stroking my face. He was stroking my face. And I'm going to use an Indian accent. And he said, Baba was loving me too much. He was just loving me too much. So that's the beauty part of the story. But Deshmukh said, Lukandi, that is poor grammar. You cannot say Baba was loving me too much. That is incorrect use of the English language. And we're like, Erwin and I and Laurel, we're like, this is such a beautiful story. And he's interrupting him for grammar. You know? But that was Deshmukh. That's what Deshmukh did. So it went on for a while. Lukandi did this 2 or 3 more times, and finally Deshmukh just got up and left the room. He just couldn't take it in his ear. And I don't know if you guys know the story about when Deshmukh came and the Mandli played a joke on him in Merazad. What happened was Deshmukh could never understand how the men Mandli could be around Baba and be normal. He just couldn't understand it. And Urich said, this is a separate story, but Urich told the story. Urich said, well, when Baba's not here, we don't act like this. And one time they knew Deshmukh was coming, and all the men, when Deshmukh walked into Mandli Hall or walked under the veranda, Baba wasn't there. They started acting crazy and rolling their eyes and rolling on the ground, picking their ears and scratching their heads because they wanted all the men decided to do it. And they all look crazy. And that's what Deshmukh wanted to see because he thought that's what the Mandli were really like when Baba wasn't there to keep them safe. But then somehow or other, Baba came into the room and saw it, and he had a really good laugh about it. But Deshmukh believed it. That's what he believed. All the Mandli were they were just nuts when they weren't around Baba. It was only Baba that kept them sane. Anyway, so that's a story about Tajudin. So we filmed Ilcha, and that's the potato story. Let me see if I made any more notes. Oh, when Pukar, so Alan Ray, when you hung out with Pukar when he came to America, right?
Yeah, I toured with Pukar for almost 2 weeks after Amartithi in 1974, and we started corresponding. And I wanted to go right back to Hamirpur in November of 1974 for the Mela there. That wasn't possible at all. And so instead, I decided I'd have the Mela in my backyard, which was 100 acres.
That was in
I was
Maine,
corresponding.
Correct?
This is in Athens, Maine. And I was corresponding via snail mail because that was how we did it back then with Pukar. And I invited him to come, and he accepted the invitation. And so that's how we got to the States. He came for the Maine Mela, and from there he went south, of course, to the Meher Spiritual Center down to Florida, then west to LA, and then up the West Coast, and then back east. And I saw him again in Boston just before he returned to India, and that was around October 22nd. And
74,
the Mela was
1974.
74. And so the main Japa Mela was August 8th to August 10th in 74. And we had a 40-foot geodesic dome, which served as our pandal, which we erected for the event. We also had our own little Japti hut. And so it was a Japa Mela. We, in a group, we took Baba's name starting at 2 o'clock on Friday afternoon. And Pukar and his sidekick from Kanpur, Sitaram, the Barfiwal. I'm sure if you were at 4 or 5 Amartithis early on, you encountered Sidaram
Oh, yeah.
giving out his barfi as people after they would take their darshan. And so, yeah, we had just an incredible weekend with Pukar. About 125 devotees showed up, and it was very, very primitive. In a similar way, not exactly, of course, but in a similar way that it's so primitive in Hamirpur. We didn't even have porta potties for people. Um, it was quite an experience for those of us who were there, to say the least. Now, back to you
Well,
and your
hold on.
film crew.
Okay. One of the stories I remember about when Pukar came here was he liked to eat bananas, and he would peel the banana and eat it and just toss the banana peel out the car window. And whoever was driving him said, Pukar, I know you do that back home because the animals eat the banana peels, but you can't do that here. Oh, terribly sorry. Terribly sorry. And then later he's eating a banana and he peels the banana and he throws it out the window. Told him again that he couldn't do that. After the third time he did it, they decided it wasn't worth telling him he wasn't going to change. One of the things, and somebody help me with this if they can remember the story. One of the things that Pukar did for Baba when he would go to Guru Prasad after Baba had the accident in Satara, he would follow. He was you've all seen Pukar, right? He was a big, hefty guy. He wasn't that tall, but he was probably about 230, and he was very strong. And he would, when Baba would get tired when he was walking around Guru Prasad, Pukar would get down on his knees and his arms and have his back flat, and Baba would sit on him. And does anybody know this story? There's more to it than this, and I don't quite remember it. Betty, do you remember anything about this?
Well, there are any number of, Pukar's diaries, which has been released and published in the last few years. There's a picture of Pukar kneeling as you've described, and Baba sitting on his back along the road at Mirazad.
Oh, it's at Marizad. I thought it was Guru Prasad.
Both places.
There are
Both
any
places.
number,
Both places.
there are any number of times when we've seen video footage of Pukar making himself available at Guru Prasad. Baba would sit on his back at Guru Prasad any number of times. So there's a fair amount of video footage showing Pukar.
There's something about it. There's something about it where people who didn't know who he was thought he was a servant or thought he was Baba's chair. Or there's something in my mind that I remember hearing somewhere. You got anything on that, Eleanor? No, Richard?
No, keep in mind that Baba said that Pukar was Hanuman in previous incarnation. Hanuman, the perfect servant of Lord Ram.
Perfect.
So I don't know if that sheds
That
any.
might be the story right there.
Yeah, that's a good story. I never heard that.
Oh, no. Oh.
Yeah.
So, Richard, let me get back to the question that you asked.
Thank you.
And the question was, what was the purpose of what Irwin did? Did I explain it well enough?
Partly, yes. I think my original question was, at the time that you were there almost 50 years ago, obviously younger, Irwin was younger. Did you have any concept of not only the privilege that you had, but what your films were going to share with people in the future? Was that a purpose for doing the films in the 70s?
Absolutely. We both Laurel and I felt we were honored, and I don't like the word blessed. That's a Christian word. We were Nazard. That word's never going to go over, Betty, but I like to use it. We were Nazard. Uh, to be able to film these people, and many of them died within a couple of years of when we filmed them, and they probably had never told their stories in a public forum before. And not only were they getting to tell their stories, they were on film. And I know Laurel and we, when the cameras didn't work, we didn't feel bad for Irwin. We felt bad for the person that we were filming and for posterity. That hopefully this came through and that the future generations, because all of us are older. We were around lots and lots of people who met the Avatar. Lots and lots of people who met the Avatar. Well, how many of them are around anymore? If there are some, I was talking to Buck Buzzfield, and his wife met Baba, but she was like what 6 months old or something in 1969. She was 4 years old. I mean, she doesn't remember that, but there's film of her. So she met Baba, and there's this woman that I know locally who's not a Baba lover, but her parents live next door to Saroshan Vilu in Ahmednagar, and they were really good friends. And the father was a Baba lover, and they took their daughter Neela, who lives in Oakland. They took their daughter Neela and her brothers to place their head on Baba's feet at Wadya Park. But she's not a Baba lover, but she met Baba and she remembers it. She actually she remembers her head being put down on Baba's feet. And that she's not a Baba lover just boggles my mind. Anyway, so yeah,
So
we did have a purpose, Richard, and Irwin didn't really tell us that. Laurel and I talked about it while we talked about what we were doing, because what happened was when we were up in Simla, Irwin got sick, and he actually flew back home from New Delhi or from Shimla. I don't really remember, but he flew back home, and Laurel and I and the driver drove all the way from Simla all the way back to Ahmednagar, which, if you look at a map, is a long way. And we had a lot of time to discuss what we had done and how we were doing it. Although we did discuss it while we were doing it, because we really wanted to. We knew we weren't doing it for Irwin. We were doing it for posterity and for Baba, so that there would be a record of some of these people who. I remember meeting this one guy who was he was an apple farm, an orange farmer, and I don't remember his name, and he didn't speak English, so we filmed him in whatever language he was speaking, which is probably Hindi. And he was an old man, probably younger than us. He was an old man at the time, and I remember his posture. He was like, it was like there was a metal rod in his back, and he was so proud because he used to send oranges to Baba, and Baba would ask for those oranges because his oranges were so beautiful. And he died within 6 months of us filming him, and I'm sure I doubt he'd ever even seen a movie camera before. And it was just such a privilege to do this. It was incredible. So on the way back, as I said, Irwin got sick. We went by Agra and the Taj Mahal, and they asked us if we wanted to stop, and we did. Didn't get much out of it. I had a nice moment at the river and back of the thing, but it really didn't mean anything. And I remember we went by Sai Baba's place, which I had been to before, and there was a man came out. He sees a van with two Westerns. Come, 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 come see Sai Baba. And Laura and I looked at each other, and we both said to each other at the same time, "Nah, we want to go Baba's too." And again, we could have gone, but it was like it wasn't really a sightseeing trip. It was work, but it was work for the avatar. So I don't know what else to say about it. Eleanor, you got anything?
Yeah. So you were in the city of Hamirpur. Uh, uh, Pukar started and developed a community called Maharpuri, and
We did go there.
and you must have spent a little bit of time at Mayapuri,
I have
and
no
of course,
memory of it. We
no
went there.
memory.
Remember, we went there. I have no memory of it.
Okay, so um, other some of the more important villages that are associated with Baba, Naranga. Did you? I'm sure you went to Naranga,
We went to
and
Naranga. No memory
and
of it.
no memory of Naranga.
No memory.
Okay. What about Ichora? Any memory of it?
I don't
Did
think
you
we
meet
went to Ichora.
Ichora?
I don't remember that. I don't remember going there.
Okay. Well,
Again, we weren't
it's
there to look over. We were wherever we went, we had a camera in our hands and we couldn't really
right.
concentrate on what was outside of looking through that. I was the cameraman just looking through the lens. By the way, I have a degree in radio, television, and film. Just as a coincidence. So everyone wanted me to come because I knew how to film and how to do all that stuff because I have an MS, a BS from Temple University in that. So I
Nice.
was the right person on the job, but it's too much concentration. You can't be looking around. You have to work.
I would like to ask
Betty-
Jack a question.
Betty-
Can I
Go
ask
ahead,
Jack a question?
Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah. All right. I'm pretty sure we were together on a pilgrimage in '79. You know, the
Right.
one that Ursula put together a pretty large
Yeah.
group of us, right? Okay.
Yeah.
We were
I
there.
remember walking through Hong Kong with you.
Is that right? And Amartithi, we were there for Amartithi.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, there was a moment that I've mentioned on one of these when I was giving my talk. And I'm wondering if you remember seeing Keshav Nigam there.
Yes, I do remember sitting and having a meal. I didn't have a meal with him, but I remember sitting with him while he was eating.
Yeah, because the memory I had, I don't know how I happened to be right in the spot where I was standing there and Keshav approached Erich or vice versa, and they embraced. And I felt it was a very touching moment, a touching scene to see those two come together and show their camaraderie and, especially at Amartithi. I don't know, it's just special, but I'm glad you got to see him there.
Yes, I got to see him there, and I think he died soon after that, didn't he, Ron?
Probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't keep up with that, with when he
Keshev
died.
didn't pass till 87.
Oh, there
Was
you
that
go.
late?
Pukar passed in 80,
Oh,
in May of 1980. Betty has a question or a comment.
Question, yeah, I remember in one of these sessions, back to Hanuman, that Pukar was Baba's Hanuman. Now, I think I have it right that someone asked Baba, do you mean that he's like Hanuman? Or does anybody remember this? Or what, or that he was Hanuman, and Baba said that he was. Am I remembering that right?
Alan
Yeah.
Ray knows.
You are.
Alan Ray's told it.
And in 2019, when I went back to Hamirpur, and for me it was my third trip to Hamirpur. After 74, I went back in 77. So this is 2019. My primary host was Pukar's son, Nath Nigam Pukar. And I asked him directly whether Bob said that Pukar was like Hanuman or Pukar was Hanuman. And Nath said that Baba said he was Hanuman. So
He sure didn't progress very fast, did he? A long time from Hanuman to Pukar. What was he doing?
Took a
What was the guy
6,000
doing?
year break.
He was styling. Um,
just another
yeah,
flash of
79 was
the
not
eternal now.
79 was a good year for me. That's when I met Rainey, when the Australians came. I have this memory, it just came to me that when I was in Hamirpur, and none of you were there when I was there, I think Khorshid came. She didn't come with us because we just had a van. I kind of remember Khorshid being it. Anybody ever hear about Khorshid going to Hamirpur?
Maybe
Because
she went with Heather.
I think she went with Heather, and that was
Maybe.
well, Heather went more than once. Say it again, Ron.
Well, when you said Heather was there, if Khorshid was there, oh, maybe not in 77, huh? You're talking about another year.
I kind of remember Khorshid being there now. Or
Oh,
maybe I
okay.
just knew that she went at another time and I was surprised. Anyway, have you all read Khorshid's the book that was it Raffo? Mark Raffo, is that his name? Wrote about Khorshid's book?
David, I think.
And Judy,
David Raffo.
Judy Robertson also together, they wrote that.
Yeah. Have you read it?
I read it.
It's really good. It's
Mhm.
a couple of stories from that if you haven't read it. Apparently, her father, Khorshid's father, was a cousin of Shiriar. They were related. And Shiriar used to come over the house and they would talk. And Khorshid, I think she went to Baba when she was what, like 14 or something. She started living. So she must have been 10 or 12 years old. She was a young girl, young child. But she liked to overhear what they were talking about. And in the book, she describes how her father asked Shiriar, you had to cross the desert. You had to come across this vast desert and you had nothing but your blanket and some raggy clothes. What did you do when you got thirsty? He said, I would stand, put my hands out, and take the name Yazdan. Yazdan, Yazdan, Yazdan. I would put my hands up to my lips, and water would flow into my hands, and I would drink. And then Khorshid's father, whose name I think they called him Masa, I'm not sure. There was more than one Masa, but how did you eat? He was asked, and he said, when I was hungry, I would kneel down on the ground on my knees and I would close my eyes and I would say, Yazdan, 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 I'm hungry. I need to eat Yazdan. And he said he would open his eyes and before him would be a spread of food and he would eat. And he said he never saw anybody deliver the food. It wasn't like an angel came. He just said, when I wanted the water, I took God's name and my thirst was quenched. And when I was hungry, I would take God's name and food would be there. Pretty incredible. Pretty incredible.
We probably, unfortunately, we're getting very near to Arti time.
Okay.
Another 4 minutes, so that.
Oh, yeah, 4 minutes. I was just filling time, Betty.
Oh, beautiful. Well,
Oh, you have the picture of Mahabaleshwar behind you.
I do. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what Ron went away. Oh, there you are, Ron. You moved over. What it's called Arthur's Seat, right?
Arthur's Seat.
Arthur's Seat. So we went there and we filmed there too.
No, wait a minute. You went there. You're talking 77?
Yeah.
Because I was
With
there.
Irwin.
I was there in 73, and the day or two before We
Oh,
went.
it wasn't there. It had fallen down, but we went to where it was.
Oh, okay, yeah, because it
Yeah,
had
yeah,
just
yeah,
fallen down
yeah.
when I was there.
Yeah, that railing wasn't there. I went there too in 72 or 73
There you go.
with Becky. Do you
Yeah.
remember Becky?
No, that was before my time.
Uh, anyway, I led 3 wives. What can I say? That was a TV show, wasn't it? Anyway,
Almost.
time for Artie. Hey, Baba.
Thanks for coming, Jack. Good to see you.
Mike, good to see you too.
Can we close with Avatar Mayor Baba 3 Ara? I mean, Alan Ray, I don't see you. But
Avatar, Mayor Baba,
Yeah,
TJ.
Alan Ray
And
disappeared.
hold on, let's bring Mansari into the picture too. So let's bring Mansari in.
oh,
There she
yeah.
is.
Bless her. With that Monzi.
Avatar, Mayor Baba, TJ.
Hey, Avatar Mayor
Mayor
Baba.
Baba Ki Jai.
Hey,
Avatar.
Avatar Mayor
Mayor
Baba
Baba,
Ki
TJ.
Jai.
hey.
Oh, Jack,
Bye-bye.
this is priceless. I bet you got more stories.
Oh yeah.
Thank you so much, Jack. And
Thank you
next
for
week,
asking me to do it.
you're
Thank
very
you for
welcome.
asking me
Next
to
week,
do it.
Jim Peterson will be with us.
My
And
goodness.
Jim hosted Pukar for a couple of
Oh,
days in Walnut Creek. September, maybe early October of 75.
nice.
Oh, you just keep
Thank you.
talking, Alan Ray.
And
Hey, Baba.
hope to see you all next week.
Baba.
Okay.
Jai Meher Baba.